Yo,
Nothing but air and opportunity. Foundationally, you were like a beacon.
And inspire to
So I think that's a key word, to inspire.
go towards change.
Can we talk about that?
Development and growth.
You've already laid the foundation and groundwork. You feel it?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Now hold on. Hold that thought. Take a deep breath. Feel me here, okay?
I got nothing but air and opportunity.
So we get a wonderful, beautiful morning, fall, November 2025, with Krista Palma and my wonderful and dear friend, Timika. Timika is the CEO of Boys and Girls Club in Frederick, Maryland, and she'll talk a little bit more about the things and the wonderful things that she's doing over there. We thought it would be a beautiful opportunity to have her be a part of what we're trying to do, and that is to help more specifically young men and maybe probably a little bit older, as they grow up, to be better citizens, role models, and also be able to give back, but also the opportunity to be with an organization that truly changes the lives of others. So Timika, it is awesome to have you here with us. I love that beautiful smile you got.
Thank you.
And Chris, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
No, we're good. We're ready.
Yeah.
Other than getting your ass here, we're ready. Yeah, thank you.
So Timika, kick it off with why you did this, or how did you get to the Boys and Girls Club? What was your start there?
Wow. All right. So growing up in the Bronx, my brother and I, in a family with a single parent. My mom, she raised us, and there was a Boys and Girls Club up the street from where we grew up. And so that was kind of our home after school and in the summer. So when my mom was working in Midtown, that's where we went. And then we fast forward, almost 30 years later, being here in Frederick, I was approached by a few people in the community about getting involved and active and joining boards. And someone approached me about joining the board to the Boys and Girls Club, which ironically was weird because my kids didn't go to the Boys and Girls Club here in Frederick. They went to the Y. I had no idea there was a Boys and Girls Club in Frederick. And so when I was approached about getting involved and sponsoring and doing things, I was like, this was my life. Like, if I can help and be on the board and kind of help encourage and kind of give a different mindset of what we should be thinking about when it comes to serving young people, I was all in. And then we fast forward to that piece, being on the board, being engaged when the CEO stepped down. It was an opportunity for me to kind of step in as an interim leader while they were trying to figure out who was going to run the organization. And that was a unanimous vote from the board. They said if Timika can do it, I was the board chair at the time. And it was just an easy segue in, and then I ended up applying for the position almost 10 months later and got the job. So here I am, almost 4 years in, running the Boys and Girls Club of Frederick County. And I think for me, the big piece that I wanted to achieve and I continue to want to achieve is really like opening up doors and opportunities for young people, and not just young people, but for staff that really want to support our youth in the community, and how can I get them connected through our organization to be able to serve youth that need us the most. And think about youth that need us the most, like what that looks like. Coming out of COVID, we have kids and families that need support that otherwise would not have needed support, and kids that need us the most look different now. It's not about being in a single parent household. It's not about being black or brown. It's not about being poor. It's about just having that extra support, because you don't have the support necessarily at home because your parents are working, right? They're working their jobs, and kids are home hanging out by themselves. And how do we leverage that opportunity to really serve the kids that need us the most, and then bring them all together so they all get exposed to something different?
Where have you seen somebody who started there a long time ago when you were a part of it, and then you saw a success story? Like, give us an example of that, where you're like, oh my gosh, this still works.
Yeah, we serve kids from everywhere. And I think some of the things that I have seen more particularly have really been in the young men.
Yeah.
Me trying to be focused on hiring the right people that are not just going to be staff members running programs, but being like mentors, being that positive example for all the kids that we serve. And we've had some kids that have come in and the parents didn't have anywhere for them to go, and really building those relationships and that trust. And so we've had one particular member that was coming to the club, like constantly getting in trouble and always the bigger kid in the room and almost kind of like bullying some of the kids, but really trying to support him in a way that that leadership role that wasn't necessarily in a positive way, how he can flip that and how the younger kids were looking up to him and him using that ability for the kids that are looking up to him to be a little bit more positive in that way. And he's now aged out, but he's coming back now as a volunteer, which I think is great. But I also think for him, even though he's not like a member anymore, him being kind of like a volunteer now still allows him to get that support from my staff and from our team, even though he's trying to be a little bit more support for the younger kids that are coming to the club. And that's what it's really about, right? Like making these connections and then allowing those connections to spin off into something else that allows them to either continue to give back at the club or giving back in a different way in the community, rather be they stay in Frederick or they go somewhere else. And, you know, you think about the motto of the Boys and Girls Club Way, you think about all the athletes, you know, all the people that have had that clubhouse as their space, and they realize that, like, that was a molding point for them, or that was like a jump off for them, like, oh my God, like, this is something that I was able to do because of the people at the club, and now I want to be able to give back, right? And so I think for this young man, him being able to see what it is that we're doing and him being able to help others, but us still helping him, is going to change that trajectory as far as what people think of young males that look like him, right? That's what it's really about.
Wow. I love it. So what is the Boys and Girls Club all about? Like, I couldn't go out into the community today and say, this is what the Boys and Girls Club is all about.
Yeah.
What is it?
So Boys and Girls Club is, of course, a national nonprofit that really focuses on serving youth, serving kids from grades K through 12, really to help them kind of find their space and be productive citizens in the community that they live in, rather it be through programs that we do. Nationally, we do like a Passport to Manhood, which really talks about embracing the young men and like kind of having this model and this mold for the things that they need to be doing in a positive way. We have a program called Smart Girls, same thing, but it's a spinoff for the girls. Like, how do they become very much more self-confident? How do they use their skills to be supportive for their peers and being that positive role model and supporting each other? So we have a lot of different programs, but it's a program-based organization, right? And so we have a lot of national branding programs, but then it allows you in the community that you live in to like really connect with other nonprofits, other organizations, to really expose your youth and the kids that you serve to bigger and better things. But because we are a nonprofit, it's really a lot of work, right? Because we have to then connect with our donors and connect with other businesses and foundations and funders to really bring in that additional money so that we can pay our professional staff members, trained staff members, to really be that model and that mold for the young people that are coming through our doors, you know, day in and day out. And so we serve kids, you know, after school during the school year. And then in the summertime, we serve kids all day long. So we give them meals. Day long. So we're open from 8 to 6, Monday through Friday in the summer. And the only days we're closed in the summer is 4th of July, and there's one other day, and Juneteenth.
Oh, Juneteenth.
Those are the only 2 days in the summer we're closed. So they're with us all day. So we give them breakfast, they get lunch, we give them afternoon snacks, we take them on field trips. You know, we take them to the pool, you know, we're all over the place. And then during the school year, we help them with homework. You know, after school, they have, we call it Power Hour, where they come in and kind of just chill, get a snack, do their homework. We have a partnership with FCPS where, like, they give us meals that they would normally be serving at lunch, but we get them after school, so the kids get meals after school as well.
Interesting.
So, there's a lot of things that we're doing.
So, I want to backtrack just for a split second. Your mom.
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit more about your mom. Like, how did she impact you and the connection between the Boys and Girls Club?
Without me getting overly emotional. So my mom passed away 10 years ago. And, you know, it's funny, just before I walked in here, my brother and I were just having a conversation. He's like, oh, it's Friday. What you got going on? You always busy. I don't get a chance to see you, blase, whatever. And he was just talking about, you know, holidays are coming up, and, you know, mom would have been super excited to see all the things the kids are doing. And I think for me, just my mom was so strong. Like, she was a single mom and just always like hustling, just always working super hard just to make sure that my brother and I had everything that we needed. And, you know, growing up in the Bronx is like you're with the same type of people, right? And so you don't realize that you don't have, because everybody around you is in the same boat. So, you know, you grow up in this area where, like, everyone is struggling, rather it's two parents in the household or a single parent household, where like there's not like I'm better than you, you're better than me, because we're all hustling, we're all doing the same thing. You know, we're all hanging out outside, the street lights come on, mom's out the window like, y'all got to get upstairs, right? Like all those types of things. And so, you know, she worked really, really hard. My mom served in the military. She was super smart. She had a really good job, but she worked in Midtown. And so it was like her, walking to the bus station and then walking to the train station and then walking to work and then after work doing the same thing. And so like growing up, my brother, who's 8 years older than me, was always that father figure for me because he was older than me. And so when my mom wasn't home, he was that person. My brother's a chef. He's an executive chef now, has been cooking for, 40 plus years.
Him and Chris will get along well. Yeah.
Graduated from CIA in Poughkeepsie, one of the best rated culinary schools in the country. And his approach on cooking was always like, Mom showed me the way, because she needed to make sure that if she didn't get home in time, he had to prep and make sure that meals were ready. So when she got home, it wasn't like we were eating at 10 o'clock at night. And so she really molded us about being grateful, building authentic relationships, because you never know when you grow up how that connection is going to help later on, and people will remember you. Always looking people in the eye when you talk to them. When people say, how are you doing? You look them in the eye and you say, I'm good. How was your day? To encourage conversation. And so she played that role of that father figure and that mother figure, and was just super solid, and never had regrets because she was a single parent, never had regrets because she was raising two kids on her own. But she always wanted to ensure that we experienced better things. So as her job continued to allow her to grow and she got promotions, I remember us going to Disney when I was in like third grade, and we were like the only people on our projects. Like we was like, we going to Disney. We going to JFK, we getting on the plane, and we're going to Disney.
Yeah.
And, she always wanted us to see the finer things in life, because she never wanted us to be embarrassed or ashamed of how we were growing up. Like to be able to say, I've never done anything. And so I really embraced how my mom raised us, is like, you got to hustle hard. Nothing's going to be given to you. Yeah. And things that are given to you, sometimes people are then going to remind you, like, the reason you have this is because I helped you. And so you also can't take that for granted. But it was always like, you got to hustle hard. And sometimes you got to have multiple plans. Like plan one may not always work. And so you got to have an A, B, sometimes C, D plan. And so I think as I, now I'm this adult with, married with kids, that's how I remind my kids, like, you got to be grateful, you got to be respectful, you got to be authentic, you got to be humble, right? Because I'm doing this great work, but I came from nothing, right? Like not having all the things, and not that I'm like this wealthy person now, but I understand what it's like to like have to work hard to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, right? And so as I encourage my team and some of the families that I talk to that have kids at the club, I'm like, I get it. Like, you working multiple jobs and you trying to get here before we close. I'm not going to penalize you because you're working. You know what I mean? Like, it's just all the things that you have to think about. But again, I wish my mom was here to kind of see, God, she was just like this light, like just funny, and she was an amazing cook, and she was fresh and fly, and like, my style and how I show up, like making sure I don't leave the house looking busted ever, because you never know who you're gonna run into. Even
Can
if
I
it's
use
at
the word
Walmart.
dope? She was looking dope all
fresh,
the time,
dope.
fresh. Yeah.
Fresh, like
these kids don't know.
No, they don't know.
Look,
Like,
and you hear how she says,
I know.
you never know who you're going to run into. And
You
here,
just-
I showed up here one day to meet him for coffee, and I was wearing sweatpants with paint on it. And he was like, what are you doing?
I said, you better go home and
it's
change
like,
that.
yeah, because you roll this one right
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
Dar.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
he
yeah.
fresh. He stay fresh. Collar pop. Got his Uggs on.
How do you, and I struggle with this as a father, because you want to do better and more for your kids. And I mean, I grew up so similar, just my mom from when I was 4, and she was working and I was just on my own, really. But what's interesting is when you're exposed to that type of a situation, like me, I dropped out of high school, and I feel like at the time I gave up on, like, I was just like, I don't have the work ethic. I don't want to do any of this.
Right.
But yet I gave up and dropped out of high school to work. But like your brother, I think about when you're put in that situation, you step up, and it happens, I think, organically. How do you help young people? How do you instill that? I mean, or how do you help them with that type of ethic and that type of drive? when they don't experience it like that firsthand. You know, it forces you to step up, but when you're
Right.
not forced to step up and you're trying to teach it, how do you teach it?
You know, I think it's always first about building those relationships and building trust, right? Because if kids
key
don't
word.
like, you know, these kids nowadays, they're not dumb,
Yeah.
right? They read through all that. So if you come in with some fake crazy energy, they're going to know like this person isn't authentic. So whatever it is that you're trying to teach them or tell them, it's going to go in one ear and out the other, because they're going to be like, you don't even care. Like, you don't know me, so why do I want to listen to you? So it's really about building those relationships first, building that trust. And then as you're building that trust, the kids are going to be like, oh, this person is really, like, they're really into what I'm doing. They really support me. And then kids will start to open up. And so I feel like once the kids start to open up, it allows you to have those authentic conversations. So when you see kids showing up the wrong way, it's almost like redirecting them, like, you don't want to do this because there's gonna be consequences to this. So I think, you know, it's really about the exposure and trying to expose kids at a younger age of like what that responsibility looks like, but also encouraging them like, you don't have to go to college, right? College is not for everybody, but you know, to your point, like, you want to be able to graduate from high school if you can, because you want to be able to provide for your families. Like, being out here in this world that we live in, it's like a dog eat dog world. Like, you gotta be able to like set goals, like having young people set goals now. Like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to live? And sometimes it's crazy stuff. Like, I want to live in a mansion. I want to have 20 cars, because they see all this stuff on social media, which is like fake news. It's like, it's all fake, right? But like, again, building those relationships and really understanding what it is that the kids want, like where they see themselves 10, 20, 30 years from now, and then helping mold that culture. Like, these are the things, you want all this fancy stuff? You want to do all these big things? These are the small steps you got to do now as a young person. You build that now. When you get older, it's already instilled in you, right? And we can't always really rely on the parents, because I know that there's families that haven't graduated from high school, aren't doing a whole lot, and so their mindset is, I just got to make it to the next pay period. I just got to make it to the next day to be able to feed my kids, put gas in the car, pay my bills. That's not always necessarily a focus. And so what I try to remind my team is that we got to be support sometimes for the whole family, like as a, holistically, like we got to be all of that support, like not just for the kids. Sometimes we got to show up for the parent in ways that we didn't have to show up, right? And so I think the things that I try to focus on for my team is like, how do we use the Boys and Girls Club's brand and what we're doing locally in Frederick to offer other services and other support for the families that we serve? So like connecting with the Hartley House and having trauma-informed training. How do we connect with therapists that can offer services through the club? So you think about this clubhouse kind of just being this space for the kids, but it's like, how can we show up not just for the kids, but for the guardians or the parents that are serving with us, alongside us, to help mold their kids to be in the right place. And again, I will say it over and over again, the kids can read through that. So if you're not able to build those relationships, and as I tell the kids, let's just chop it up. Let's just sit down and talk, like, how was your day today? Like, what's really going on? And let the kids really tell you what's really going on, so then you know how you need to show up for them. But you got to give them that space to tell you what's really going on. But the kids are not going to give you that space if they don't trust you.
Oh, so that's hands down.
So I have a question. What are some of the challenges that the youth face now, and how is it different from when you were their age?
You know, mental health, right? So like mental health is huge. We didn't have social media, right? We was outside on the streets till the lights came on, riding bikes, roller skating, double dutch, jump rope, basketball. I feel like when we were growing up, you could still be a kid, right? The kids nowadays have so many pressures that we didn't have. You could just be a kid, like just chill. Now you can't just be a kid because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, and you got all this stuff on social media that's not even real. And so the kids now have this mindset of all the things that are going on, and bullying. Like, bullying now turns into something totally different because of the mental health. Like, when we was growing up, at least when I was growing up,
say it.
You talk trash, you out on the playground.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Growing up, my brother would say, you're going to have to fight. Like, you're going to have to fight to protect yourself. Make sure you don't get bullied. And you may not win every fight, but they know not to mess with you again because they know you're going to go toe-to-toe. Kids don't do that anymore now. Like, there's no way for them to, like, be angry and then tomorrow we're friends again. Like, I was mad yesterday. I'm fine today.
So I rudely interrupt you here.
You're right. They carry it for a lot longer now. You're right.
Do you see any fights in high school? I mean, like, are there people fighting these
mean-
days? Come on, I just want to
At
know
my
because
son's school, I ask him. They don't fight.
they don't
Where-
fight.
where's
But
your
I
kid
also
go to
live-
school?
Yeah,
I
where?
also live. in
Yeah,
Boonesboro,
yeah, let's-
so it's
Oh,
a
yeah,
so
little
you have
redneck,
Boonesboro. That's
but-
a whole
Yeah.
little. That's
No,
different.
come on,
No,
fill me
kids.
in.
Kids do fight.
Yeah.
But the problem is that fighting in school is no longer like it was a fight in school and then we get home, it's cool because we got social media, right? So you got kids fighting, everything's being recorded. Before you know it, it's on social media. Before you know it, now kids are being bullied because of the fight, right? So now everyone's on TikTok, everyone's on IG, like commenting, oh, you're a punk, you're this,
Yeah.
you're all the things, and then it spirals, and before you know,
I got
it's,
you.
It's
It
a
just
whole
continues
different
to fuel it.
Yes, you're right, because you can go back to this. This stuff on social media is never gone. So this fight that happened a month ago, someone can clown you today and bring it up, and now you're mad
I
because this
got
is
you.
already out here. Now someone's trying to punk you in front of your friends now on something that happened a year ago. So it's like this constant. That's why we tell the kids at the club, y'all don't get phone time. Screen time is done. Y'all come in the club, put your phones away.
Yep.
You can't have them. We need to do programming.
Good.
You need to chill. You need to hang out with your friends that are here. Go outside and play, right? Maybe you'll get your phone for 10 minutes, or if you're checking on your parent to, they're coming to get you. The little kids at the club, they don't have phones anyway, but the middle schoolers, they come with their phones. We're like, put the
Nope.
phones away. Like,
Good.
we just want them to
Wow.
have fun.
Yeah.
But it's different. I mean, fights are different. Again, I could get into a fight today on the playground or at school. Tomorrow is good. Like,
Absolutely.
it's not like that anymore. It's different.
Oh my gosh.
It's so different.
Before I forget, your mother would totally be, this, proud of you. You're an amazing woman.
Thank you.
I
Ever
felt
since
that
the
way
day I
from-
met you.
From when I met you. That's
Yeah.
why
Well,
I
thanks. See,
was-
it's about that
to make
energy,
sure
it's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what
It's
it's all
about
about.
that energy. Yeah.
What were you thinking, Chris?
So I wrote these down so I didn't
No,
forget them.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's okay, yeah.
So what skills and values or mindsets do you believe will be essential for today's youth to thrive in tomorrow's world?
I mean, I keep going back to it. It's really about being so authentic and like being genuine and like being honest, though, right? Like really being honest about what it is you're going through and what it is that you need. Like I also feel like at times young people are going through so much, they don't even know what they need, right? They don't even know what they need to be better. It's like they're literally just living in the moment of like what's happening right now today. And sometimes they don't even have the skill set to know what I'm going to need 6 months from now, what I'm going to need a year from now, right? And so it's about understanding what the kids need, but having them understand that they got to be honest with themselves, and they also have to be honest with their teachers, their mentors, their parents. So like, what their goals are. Like I really push, like even with my own kids, like my son's a freshman in college at SCAD in Savannah, Georgia. My daughter's a junior at St. John's Catholic Prep, and it's like, what are your goals? Like, so that you can try to help them achieve them, right? Because some goals, I mean, sometimes I'm overly honest with my kids. Like, I'm like, not everybody's a rock star, and that's okay. But like understanding that you may not be a rock star in this area. So what, not necessarily what's your fallback, but like, what's the next plan? Like, what's the next option? So it's really about uplifting these young people, giving them access to the things, right? Because if you expose them to things, like for us in the club or just in general as you're connecting, exposing kids to different things allows them to figure out what it is they want to do when they grow up. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, but we just won. We were
Please tell
granted that
us.
$100,000 STEM grant through the Gilead Foundation.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so, now we're going to be doing more to expose our young people at the clubs to like STEM and science and robotics and,
Wow.
math. And again, schools don't have funding for all of that. So it's like, how do we use the access that we have to give that access to the kids that we're serving,
I see.
to open up their eyes to something different than, who would have known that some of the kids are like into like the STEM and building the bots and the robots and like putting the, math figures together and all that stuff together to allow like this electronic to move in this way, and like the electricity, all the things that, young people in STEM, black girls in STEM and black girls in science, like all the things that some of these kids
Never
don't have
exposure to.
access to, right? So
Yeah.
it's like you want to expose the kids to all the impossibles, right? So that they're like, you know what, I like this, or you know what, I want to
Yeah.
do this. But I think in my role, what pushes me and makes me grind every day is that hopefully I am someone that these young people or older people can see like themselves. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
She's doing this. I can do this. She's young. I don't have to be crotchety and be old and be
Yeah.
a CEO. Like, I still want to have fun. I want to hang out with the kids outside. Like, I still want to connect with them. but like letting them see that there is a possibility. And sometimes kids don't see themselves in roles because they don't have people to look up to, or they don't see anyone else in those roles. And so for me, I'm always about even exposing my staff to new things, because people are watching. The people we serve at the club are watching them. And so for me to be the first and only right now Black CEO for the Boys and Girls Club of Frederick County, and to be a female, right? That's something that we don't always see, but it allows like me to understand, like behind the scenes, these young people see me, and hopefully they can aspire to do these great things and see themselves sitting in that seat or sitting behind that door saying, you know what? I met Timika when I was in, 5th grade or 6th grade or 3rd grade, and she did a ton of great stuff, and I loved, hanging out with her. I want to do that, right? It allows them to see themselves in those shoes. And it's not always about, being a Black woman or whatever, but it's really about making sure that you are this positive person for the kids that you're serving at the club, or just that you're mentoring, so that it inspires them to want to do bigger and better things because they saw what you exposed them to or what you offered for them.
Yeah. How do you grow the reach into schools and other areas?
It's a hard task. But again, for me, one of the quotes I say often, and I know people get tired of hearing me say it, but I'm like, the Boys and Girls Club, we do a lot of things, but we can't be all things to everyone all the time, right? We just don't have the funding for it. But if you can collaborate, if you can build relationships with partners that are doing things really, really well that maybe we aren't doing because we don't have the funding, or we're not doing because that's not our expertise. But if you partner with people that are doing those things really well, we can still give our kids access to those things, even though we're not per se the people doing it, right? We're allowing the partnerships to give our kids something different. And, the reach is really about for us in Frederick, how do we get additional funding? How do we get more transportation? How do we get more people to support? How do we continue to be the premier youth serving organization that we know that nationally the Boys and Girls Club is? How do we become that here in Frederick County, that we can serve all the kids that need us the most? My biggest setback now is that transportation is a big deal. And so like for us, we support all the kids in Frederick County, but not all the kids in Frederick County have access to us, because we are the Boys and Girls Club of Frederick County, but right now we have the clubhouse on Madison Street, across the street from Lincoln. That's our K through 5th grade. We have the Boys and Girls Club on Burke Street, which is 6th grade through 8th grade. We're just starting a new partnership at Brunswick Middle, where we're serving 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in the school after school. We're doing a new program at Heather Ridge, where we're going in during the day and doing programming. But there's all these other schools in Frederick County, all these other kids, but how do we get to them, right? We don't have the transportation, but I don't have the funding to hire 10 more employees to just be at the schools. Like, we got to have the money to be able to do that. And so FCPS wants us to be there, wants us to support. We want to support, but when you don't have the money and when you don't have access, like when I talk about the kids not having access, when us as an organization don't have the access, our services are limited. And so we want to be there, but we can only be there with so much because we don't have all the services that we need to be able to do it.
And I think with most of the people in Frederick County, I would say they want to help. They can only help so much.
Right.
And they have big hearts. I think if I were to ask a question that's very targeted, what is that one thing that you are laser focused on today that's part of your mission where you do have the resources to accomplish? What is that?
It's serving the current reach and the current footprint that we're in and doing it well. Really honing in on what we're currently doing and doing it really, really well, and hiring stellar employees to ensure that they are trained and they know what the need is and that they can provide those services, making sure that they have the resources. They're letting me know what their need is so that I can ensure that they have what they need to serve the kids that we are currently serving. And as we continue to do that, hopefully we will continue to grow because others will see they're making a difference. They're really doing the things they said they were going to do. We gave them funding and they're using the funding for what they told us they were going to use it for. And just honing in on that skill set and making sure that I hire and keep stellar employees to kind of keep this mission and movement going.
So what are those qualities and those attributes that you look for
for
people who are interested?
Yeah.
And then I also am interested to know what type of training, but first, qualities and attributes.
staff members that are willing to put into work, because working with youth, that's not an easy task, right? Because you deal with all the emotions, all the things that are happening. You get the backlash from what happened in school brought over into the club, right? So ones that first are going to show up for the kids, ones that are willing to like be the mentors and be those positive individuals, ones that are willing to do the training, ones that have skill sets already, like they already know they want to work with you. They already know that they want to mentor, so that I can then train them up. Ones that are dedicated and committed, like, I give 150% to everything that I do, but understanding that not everyone's going to give 150% to everything, but understanding that the people that I hire are going to give more than maybe what they gave before, whatever that looks like, right? They might have been on a 40%, now they're giving 60. They're giving more than what they normally would, so that's still a win. And just ones that are like committed to the youth. Like some people come and they just want to work. It's like they just want to get that check. That's not this job. That's not what it is. It's about, sometimes we work on the weekend. Sometimes we have events. We got things going on, and sometimes it's not about that 9 to 5 or that 3 to 6, right? It's like, you are committed to the kids, you're committed to your team, right? That like we're supporting each other, and it's not like, you do your thing, you do your like their win is my win and my success. My success is their success, right? It's like teamwork. We're doing all this together, because I can't do any of this work without them, but I know they can't do this work without me.
You win together,
right?
and lose together.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for someone who doesn't, or someone who's unsure of whether they have it, what type of training?
So Boys and Girls Club has an amazing plethora of like just training. Like we have directors training, we have, program training, HR skill set training. We have, the programs that we do, we have trainings for those. So like all of our programs are vetted, where there's like curriculum, there's all of that data, like everything is there for you. So there's a ton of training that Boys and Girls Club gives for any job within the walls of a Boys and Girls Club. There's training, there's training where I send people out to like, another site, and, they're doing that training and they're working with people in the same role as them, so they can understand like, in New York they're doing it this way, in Pittsburgh they're doing it that way, so like you can bounce off of each other. But we also have a Maryland Alliance where like I work with my colleagues across the state that are doing the same things that I'm doing. They might be doing it a little bit differently, right? So we bounce, like we have a round table, we're bouncing ideas off of each other, but then there's a way for us to come together in a larger space where we can get more funding, because your funding is coming through together. So if you're serving 5,000 kids, you're going to get more money when you're trying to serve 5,000 kids than you would if you're serving 300 kids. And so, there's anything that you can think of behind the walls of a Boys and Girls Club that you need training for, Boys and Girls Club of America has all of that training, rather it's virtual, rather they bring people in. Safety is a big thing, because with kids, our ratios, like our ratios at our club is 12 to 1. So I need to have like a professional trained staff member with all of our groups, child grooming, all of the bad things you like to think about, sex abuse, child abuse. We have training on that. Like, there's no one-on-one with staff and kids. There's no one-on-one with kids together. Like there's a lot of things that people don't think about. They're like, oh, just a Boys and Girls Club. There is a lot of stuff that we have to like make sure that we're ensuring that our kids are safe, because you're trusting me as
safety.
a parent to make sure that your kid is safe when they're with us, rather be an hour or 8 hours. And so we need to make sure we do all of our due diligence. Like you got to pass a background check. Yeah. You can't be in our building if you haven't had a background check. You can come in one time and volunteer, but if you're saying you want to do this regularly, you got to pass a background check. And if you can't work for us, you can't volunteer with us. Like that's just how it works, right? So there's a lot of things. So I would say, people that are interested, like, oh, I want to get involved, reaching out, finding out what it is you actually want to do, and reaching out and saying like, hey, I want to be a mentor. Hey, I want to work with these young women or young men, right? And then filling out an application, rather be to volunteer or to, get employment, and then being able to go through that process of like the background check, the fingerprinting, all of that type of stuff, so that we know that we've vetted you before we put you in front of other people's children.
Wow. I don't think people realize everything that goes into that. Yeah,
it's a lot.
So that sparks two things. One is, what's the most surprising statistic or data that you heard about through all your training and over the years that you're like, wow, I did not know that, and would just be staggering for like the community to know about? Like one piece of data.
God, there's so many.
Yeah, you can only pick one. My
I
son
know.
had a problem with this the other day too. Because
Only
there's so
pick-
much good stuff, but just one that stands out, and you're like, oh my heavens.
Like the high percentage, I'd say like that, 30, 40% of kids that, come to the club are like meal insecurities, like food insecurities.
Okay.
One thing that I didn't realize is that we have a huge ALICE population in Frederick County.
Yep.
And like, lower income living below poverty or at that poverty level. Frederick County is one of the wealthiest counties in the state of Maryland,
Amen.
right? And so it's kind of like, how is it that we're so wealthy, but you still have families living like at poverty or below poverty in Frederick County? And that can be like, food insecurities, homelessness, so many families that don't have transportation. That number continues to increase in our community. And so, we have a lot of roundtables in Frederick City and Frederick County where, a lot of nonprofits come together and talk about what the struggles are. And those numbers, for me, continue to grow. And so I'm like, wow.
That's a bummer.
Like, that's a huge piece that, when you're not living that, you don't realize it. But then, like, it humbles me because I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Like,
eat
I'm
good.
like,
My brother's a chef.
right?
Yeah.
But you think about it, you're like, wow, there's a huge population in our Frederick community. And it's not just in Frederick City. It's in Emmitsburg. It's in Thurmont. It's in Brunswick.
Oh, wow.
It's in areas that you would be like, that's rural, but that's not an issue. They should be fine. It's like, no,
They
they're
can grow their own crops.
right, exactly. But you got to have land to grow
Yeah.
your own crops, right?
Yeah.
So, there's so many pieces that you think about and you're like, man, God, I didn't realize that. So I would say that's probably the biggest. And then there's a lot of other things that, how many kids we serve that are in single parent households. We have a lot of kids that we serve at the club that are in single parent households, but they're with their dads. Right.
Oh,
So when people
yeah.
always think, it's like, a whole bunch of single mothers. I'm like, yeah, that's a large number. But the numbers of single fathers, that is also starting to grow at
Wow.
alarming rates. Whatever that reason is, right? There's all the statistics and all the numbers, but
Yeah.
that's a large number as well that I'm not used to seeing, but I'm seeing a lot of it now.
Got you. Okay, so second question. One thing that I've seen work over the years is the older kids working with the younger kids. Like when a young kid sees an older kid from like high school and they connect and they see each other. Do you see more volunteer work from like high schoolers coming in to help you with the younger kids, or has that dropped off?
I would say it's dropped off, but I think for us, we are trying to refocus on that because I need to, I got to work on a budget. I got to
Yeah.
make sure I got money to pay people. And so
Yeah.
I'm realizing as we grow and as our need changes, I don't necessarily have the funding to hire like all these people with this specific expertise. So it's like, how do I bring in young people? The problem is that young people nowadays are also so busy, right? You think about all the commitments they have, rather be they're playing sports or they're doing dual enrollment classes in high school, like they're going to the community college and they're in high school classes, or they're working because they're in households where it's lower income. So now these students are like working, going to school. So it's trying to carve out that time, and how do you get that? And so one of my new goals is really trying to connect with the school administrators. Like, we did this is how we got Bo, right? Connecting with Bo from TJ, him bringing his football players out to the club and having them volunteer. Like they're actually having fun with the kids. They're playing flag football outside.
Yeah.
They're going to the pool with the kids.
Yes.
They're coming, before practice or after practice, right? So it's like, how do we build those relationships with individuals in the school that are going to be committed the same way I'm committed to really find those students that, one, because they all need volunteer hours to graduate. So how are you honing in with those kids to figure out, do you have your volunteer hours, already set up in place for you to graduate? And if you don't, how do they bring them to us, carving that pathway to us? And then also figuring out what it is that the kids want to do. Like there's sometimes kids that want to be in child development. They want to be a teacher when they get older. Like how do you pinpoint what these students want so that you realize it's a good fit? But sometimes it's work just trying to connect with people in the school and having them make it a priority. So as much as I say that I think that there's a lot of that, I am not seeing that regularly anymore. However, I know that I have to do more work of connecting with the high schools to figuring out hey, there's an opportunity for your students to come in. We want more volunteers. We want the kids that are here at the club to meet older kids, to realize that connection and how they may not look the same, but they are the same, right? Like, being able to have those conversations and meet, talking to the kids and being like, oh, you only got you only got one mom too, but you live out over here, or you only have one dad also. You only, you live over here. Oh, your mom works here, or that's where my mom and dad works too. Like, really being able to have those conversations, and then you realize we're not really so different.
Yeah,
right?
those experiences, though, they also, it's so beneficial for both sides because it forces people out of their comfort zone to grow those relationships. And that's a piece of what's missing in so many of the people that we talk to now with the youth, is people not wanting to talk to each other. And
because they stay on them damn phones.
Yeah.
That's right. I feel like some are just lonely, and if they can have a place to go and help others, I think that's beautiful what you're doing. And it sounds like it's a goal for you.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a goal.
So you mentioned kids' goals or the youth's goals. How about your team? How do you guys measure success?
So, we have our strategic goals, we have our individual goals, we have our growth goals. Like, it's really about me trying to be the best leader that I can be, to instill that. And I will tell you, I'm not perfect. I fall short on a lot of things because I'm just all over the place doing a lot of things. I can't just sit behind the desk and just push emails and all that. It's like, I got to be out here connecting, like I'm doing this with y'all and meeting people, because then it allows people to understand what it is that we do. And then people realize how they can support us in a different way, or they can connect us to people that can support us in a different way, right? So, I try to set goals based off of our organization, but then also setting goals based off goals that have been set, for me, from Boys and Girls Club of America, because they're also supportive in that realm. Like, I just had my year-end review. Like, what are your goals for the next 3 years? Like, what do you want to see? Where do you think your organization will be in 2028, right? So we're talking like 2-3 years out. Like, where do you see your organization?
So it's about 3 years out.
Yeah, and so it's like how I try to set up the goals. And again, I'm not perfect at this. How I try to set up the goals is like, the goals that are set for me, I then try to figure out, okay, what goals that have been set for me are ones that can trickle down for the team, right? So like one of my goals for the past couple of years was hiring a director of operations, because for the past 2.5 years, I've been doing everything. I've been the CEO, I've been the operations director. Again, I have a huge team, not a huge team, but a very supportive team. So everyone's kind of just been helping where they can. But like, that was one of my goals, like hiring a stellar operations director and making sure that all the things that I'm doing in the weeds and all the things that like they can take that off my plate, so that I can actually start doing like the big, like doing the big picture work, like, right? Like scaling up and scaling out. And so like, I just hired someone. She started on Monday, like trying to figure out, do I hire someone now? Do I hire them later? We're so busy now. Am I going to be able to focus? Like, so those were one of the goals. But then the next goal is like, how do you talk about growth? Like, we want to serve more middle schoolers. Like, how do you grow that middle school realm, and how do you connect with those kids? We'd ultimately love to serve high schoolers. Right now, we're serving middle schoolers, but how do we get to that next level to serve high schoolers? Because when I started, almost 4 years ago, we really only had our elementary school program, and we had one middle school program that was at Ballinger Creek Middle. We now have 4 middle schools.
Good for you.
And now the middle school in Brunswick that, we're just starting to kick off, and we're serving somewhere. Middle schoolers in Heather Ridge. So it's like, these were these goals. Like, you can't go from like serving elementary schoolers to serving high school. It's like, you got to have that succession. Like, okay, how do you progressively serve more kids? So when the elementary schoolers get to middle school, and then we have a teen program, they don't leave, they just stay, they just roll up into the next circle of the whole process, right? And so those were goals that I had. And so now for me, it's like, for my team, how do we build better connections so that the kids that we're already serving, they want to tell their friend tells their friend, they all start coming because they're having fun, and they know that if I can get my friends from school to come to the club with me, we'll get to do all of this stuff together. Because, kids go to school together. They don't all live in the same neighborhood, right? So how do they get to build those relationships that they're building in school? They get to grow those relationships after school at the club.
You're going to have to make it cool, Timika.
I'm
'Cause that's how they
trying.
roll.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
You
We
know,
got a
yeah.
we got a 3-on-3 basketball tournament today at Brunswick
now
Middle.
we're talking. Okay,
We're working with
okay.
Larry Brown, who is the owner of Overtime Grind. So, just again,
That
connecting
is
with
brilliant.
different people to give our kids access to other things that, like, again, we're
Love
not
it.
doing that at the club because I don't have the staff to do it. But if I'm going to connect with others, now our kids have access to that because I'm connecting with people that are doing it really, really well. And they're saying, Timika, bring your club kids, bring your staff. I want you to be a part of it. Last weekend, I played in that Harlem Wizards game at FCC.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
That was a fundraiser, right? It was like you play, they raise money, the proceeds, we were beneficiary. The proceeds from that event is coming back to the Boys and Girls Club, City Youth Matrix, and I-9 Sports. And it was an amazing opportunity. I showed up with my glitter on my face, my tutu on, my leg warmers. I'm not a baller,
Yeah,
but I had
but
so
you
much
showed
fun.
up.
I did,
Yeah.
right? And so again, it's not, sometimes getting the staff and even the kids to be comfortable being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of times kids, staff, they don't want to do things that they're not comfortable with, right? And
Yeah.
so for me, I'm like, I'm not always comfortable, but I got to get comfortable being uncomfortable because it shows that vulnerability that, like, oftentimes people don't see in leaders all the time because you show up and you're like, I got this, I'm good, I'm solid. I'm not all the time. I know that, so I try to make sure that I connect myself with individuals and people that are doing bigger and better things than me, because then it causes me to aspire to do bigger and better things, and it has me set different types of goals because I see other people crushing it, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
want to be there. I want to crush it.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that kind of trickles down to my team.
You make sure you get your own time, though. Don't forget. You need
Listen,
some mental health,
I
okay?
know,
Space
I know,
for yourself.
I know.
You're a hard worker.
I know.
I got one final question after Chris.
So we answered these, but I still want to ask them so that it's more
Yeah.
direct, so people know a little bit better. What are the most meaningful ways people can support? You mentioned transportation, right?
Funding.
Funding. So funding, I
Straight
have also
hardcore
That's-
dollars.
to
Those
support
dollars.
resources. Okay.
Yes, those dollars are extremely important because we're a nonprofit. We can't do that by ourselves. And
Yeah.
and while Boys and Girls Club is a national brand and people think, oh, they're Boys and Girls Club, they get a ton of money.
No.
We don't get money like that. Like there's, thousands of clubs across the country. Boys and Girls Club of America, they don't push funds out to us. They're like, you have our branding. Our branding gives you the training, it gives you the access, it gives you the tools, and it gives you the programs. Now you figure out how you're gonna make this work,
Yeah.
right? And so the funding is key because I hate to say this, but money covers every. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you gotta
yeah.
have funds to be able to do all the
Unrestricted
things.
funds.
Yes,
Right.
unrestricted funds because we do get grants and we do get funding, but a lot of that is for like just programs. And so in order for me to have unrestricted funds, it allows me to hire good people to run the programs that we're getting restricted funds for.
Yep.
I need the funds to cover operations. I need the funds, I need funds for multiple things, not just doing the programs. So people are like, oh, I'm going to, give you money for a STEM program. That's great. But if I can't hire a good staff or a good employee to run the program, it don't matter how much money you get per
Right.
program because it ain't going to get done right.
Yeah,
and it may
absolutely.
not get done at all if I don't have the staff to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
Good
you
for
gotta
you.
gotta
Yeah.
be able to.
That's
you gotta
being
be
real.
able to have that
And
and,
the-
volunteers.
Yeah.
Volunteers.
And volunteers because again, I have the staff, but it makes the work lighter and so much easier and so much more sustainable when you have other people that are committed and they don't necessarily want to get paid. They don't need to get paid, but they still want to be supportive. And so making sure people understand that, like, if you want to come in and volunteer and you're committed to volunteering and you're making this a priority for you, we're going to make it a priority for us.
What does somebody do to volunteer? What should
So
they
if
do?
you go on to bgcfrederick.org, it's our new revised website. It talks about all our programs, but you can click on the drop down for volunteering. There is information about volunteering. There's an application that you can fill out. I will say you got to print it out. We've not gotten that far where like everything is, you can do it online and it feeds through, but that is another one of our goals because
Yeah.
we've gotten feedback
Technology.
from people, right? That technology piece, but printing it out, filling it out, and then calling our volunteer community outreach coordinator and letting her know what it is you want to do and how you want to do it, and she will make a way and make a space for you to show up in
Yeah.
that way.
And it sounds like a benefit from that too. Like Chris was asking, is training. Like,
Yes.
I mean, you're going to get great training as a
And you
volunteer.
can-
that's
yeah. I mean, whether
that's
you're
a
there
benefit.
temporarily or,
Or not,
Yeah.
you
yeah.
can still can support your growth and
Yeah.
development. Another question, again, we answered it, but what programs or initiatives are underfunded that have the potential to make a great impact?
Underfunded. So I would like to see more funding in that healthy habits where it's like, more sports programs along with like healthy food, like allowing us the ability to buy like, more meals, more food, that's an issue, right? That piece, that food insecurity, but healthy habits, I would say more of like the arts programs, like music programs. I mean, there's so many programs that we could be doing, but when you don't have the money to hire people to do it and you're relying on just volunteers all the time, those programs are not going to be successful because you're relying on just volunteers. So in order for me to have the types of programs that I could have or that I want to have or that I do have, but we're not really doing a lot with it, is because I don't have someone that has that expertise to come in and run the program, so you're relying on volunteers. And again, I'm not going to knock anything about volunteers because I need them, I want them, but volunteers are not going to give the same commitment as a paid employee, right? Like they're coming into work, they're getting paid. So those are some of the top ones, like passport.
And to plan and be consistent.
Yes.
To make a plan.
Yes. And like regularly, like a few years ago, we had a mini grand piano donated by FCC. We got a mini grand piano. We were doing music, like piano lessons, but that was a volunteer. Well, now the grand piano is there. The kids can, make music on it and kind of do some stuff, but there's no one there to run it. Like people that work for me are not musicians, right? They're not, piano teachers. They don't. So it's it's there, but we're not doing a whole lot with it. It looks nice, but we're not doing it. And then I would say the one big thing,
dueling pianos.
Yeah, right. That would be amazing.
Yes.
I love that.
Oh, don't get me started.
And I think one of the other big things that's new for us, but we're doing a program called Positive Action, and Positive Action is really about reinforcing things that the kids are doing and how do we turn that into something positive. Like, how do you understand that your positive actions give off a positive response? And, and then we also have the mental health piece. So I would say the positive action and the mental health piece, because that is a new space that we're in Frederick. We did get the consortium funding for mental health, and so we're serving kids in that way as well. But I think one of the things that's not funded enough, and I would say just right now, because I think it's new, is that mental health piece, because I feel like the kids all need it. And sometimes families and kids don't think they need it, and then they start getting it and they realize, wow, I was able to talk it out with someone without reacting or responding, right? And so then it allows the families to have that additional support. So like right now, one of the grant funds we received was for therapy. So we have a therapist that comes into the club twice a week, and it's free. So if you're a club member and your kids come to the club and you're like, you sign the waivers and paperwork that says, yes, my kid can get therapy, they will get free therapy. But she's only with us 2 days a week. Like, we only have funding for a certain amount of time for her to come in. So it's like, but wouldn't that be amazing if every kid that was a member at the club that needed it or wanted it had full access to that, and the families didn't have to worry about, my insurance doesn't cover it, or I don't have insurance, or the therapist that I want to see doesn't take my insurance, so now I got to pay out of pocket, but I don't have the money to pay out of pocket. So the first thing to go is going to be that mental health support that we know the kids need. So, all of these things that we are offering to our families, and a lot of people don't know. And so it's really kind of just getting it out there and just kind of letting the community know what it is that we're doing.
Yeah. All right, I got my last question.
Sorry, one more real quick.
Okay. You're going to have to make it quick because I got the roll, baby.
You touched on it.
You know how Mr. D works.
Number of participants right now. Was it 300 you mentioned, or is it more than that?
No, so in the summertime, we have large numbers. I want to say right now, our average daily attendance is about a little shy of 100, and a lot of that has turned because we have a lot of our government employees that are not working, so their kids are not coming to the club because they're not working. So they're trying to reserve cash, they're trying to reserve gas, not driving all around. And then also there's a lot of redistricting last year, and so we actually pick up from 11 schools in Frederick City. And so because we pick up from a lot of those schools, things that were redistricted, a lot of the kids that we were serving may have been redistricted, and now they're at schools that we don't serve at. So we're only picking up from certain schools and bringing them to our clubhouses. And so if you're not at those schools, you can come to the club, but you got to have transportation. You have to have someone that's bringing you to the club, and then when we close at 6, parents got to pick them up. So if you don't have access to transportation, rather be from school to get to us because we're not picking up from your school, or to have a parent pick you up, the resources are not there for you. I mean, and they are. I'm saying it is available, it's open, but
Yeah.
you don't have it because you don't have access to it.
Because of the redistricting.
Yeah, and because of just us not being able to serve and pick up from all the schools in Frederick County. Like, I would love that we could do, if we had vehicles, or if, FCP has had buses that they were like, all right, we're going to pick these kids up from these schools and we're going to bring them to the Boys and Girls Club. But
Yeah.
they're not doing that. They don't have the ability. They're already short-staffed with, bus drivers just to get the damn kids to school.
That's a very
You know what I
shortage.
mean?
Yeah.
So,
Let me wrap it up with this. All right, this is off the wall question, but I think it will have a lot of impact. Down the road, what do you want your kids to say about you as a mother?
that I love them endlessly, and that mom will show up regardless, whenever, however. You need me to show up with my earrings on. You need me to show up super fresh. You need me to show up in my hoodie and
Yeah.
it's about to go down. I'm there too. Like, I want my kids to know that being a mother is probably one of the greatest gifts no one told me I would have in my life. No one
That's
ever
beautiful.
told me. And people that know me know, I say it all the times, I'll die for my kids. I'll go to jail for my kids. And so
I'll come bail you out.
and yeah, and my kids know that. So they remind me how I need to show up at
Yeah.
times, right? But no one told me, and I don't know that I got the time to have those conversations in depth with my mom, because she left us so early. Like, my son was in second grade and my daughter was in kindergarten. And it was just those times where, like, they're starting to grow and you see all the things. And I don't know that anybody ever told me that it would be this much fun and exciting, and sometimes, hard to be a mother and to be a good mother. Like, I show up for them the way I never thought I would ever show up. And they drive me to work so much harder and to think about things so differently, but not just for them, but also for their friends. Like, just being a better human in a space for young people, so that the way I show up for my kids, if you're part of my kids' tribe, or you're like kids at the club, whatever, if you're a youth and you need me to show up for you, I'm going to show up for you that same way. I don't know that I knew this as a young person or even as a young adult, that it would be this gratifying. And this is why I show up every single day, because I know not just my kids are watching, but other kids are watching. And that's my drive.
We're grateful to have you in the community.
Thank you.
You're an amazing woman.
Thank you.
You cast a long shadow, and you are a beacon of hope. So thank you. We're going to roll out.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Good job.
Great. Thank you.